I was clearing dessert plates from the private dining room when I first saw Marco Vidal. He sat alone at a table overlooking the Atlantic, the last rays of sunset turning the water gold beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Everything about him screamed wealth and control. The perfectly tailored charcoal suit, the expensive watch catching the light, the way he cut his steak with precision that felt almost violent. But what made my hands shake as I approached his table wasn't the money or the clothes, it was the stillness. The way he sat completely motionless between movements, like a predator conserving energy between kills. I was 24 years old, working at Hotel Atlantico in a small coastal town in Galicia, saving every euro for the drama conservatory in Madrid I'd been dreaming about since I was 16. The hotel job paid well. Rich tourists tipped generously, and the owner, Señora Beatriz, had been kind enough to give me extra shifts in the private dining rooms where the wealthiest guests ate. I'd served celebrities, politicians, old money families from Madrid and Barcelona. But I'd never served someone who made the air feel heavier just by existing. "Your steak, señor. Is everything satisfactory?" My Galician accented Spanish came out steadier than I felt. He looked up at me then, and I understood why the other servers had refused this table. His eyes were dark, almost black, and completely empty of warmth. Handsome, devastatingly so, maybe 35, with sharp features and the kind of controlled intensity that made you want to step back even when he hadn't moved. "The steak is acceptable. You're new." "I've been here 6 months, señor, but I usually work the main dining room." "What's your name?" Not a question, a demand. Ana Sousa." "Portuguese name. You're from across the border." "My grandmother was from Porto. I grew up here in Galicia." Why was I explaining myself? Why did this man make me feel like I needed to justify my existence? "Sit down, Ana from Porto and Galicia." "I'm working, señor. I can't." "I'm requesting your company. That's allowed when you've rented a private dining room." He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit, please." The please didn't make it less of a command. I glanced at the door, but Señora Beatriz had been clear. Guests in the private rooms got whatever they wanted, as long as it wasn't explicitly illegal. I sat, perched on the edge of the chair, ready to bolt. "Tell me about yourself. What does Ana Sousa do when she's not serving overpriced steak to men dining alone?" "I save money. For school. Drama conservatory in Madrid. I want to act." "An actress? Interesting. Most young women in coastal towns want to escape through marriage or babies. You want to escape through art. Art is harder to escape. Marriage and babies, those trap you just differently." He almost smiled. Almost. "Smart answer. How much have you saved?" "Excuse me?" "For your conservatory. How much money?" "I don't think that's..." I'm not asking to be rude. I'm asking because I'm curious about ambition, about what people sacrifice for their dreams. He cut another piece of steak with that precise, almost surgical care. "Answer the question, Ana." 8,000 euros. I need 25,000 for the full 3-year program. I'm hoping for a scholarship to cover the rest. "And if you don't get the scholarship?" "Then I keep working, keep saving. It might take 5 years instead of 2, but I'll get there. 5 years serving tourists and watching the ocean while your dreams get further away. That requires impressive patience, or impressive desperation." He set down his knife and fork, gave me his full attention. "What if I offered you a different path, faster, easier? Would you take it?" "Depends on the path." "Honest, I appreciate that." He pulled out a business card, slid it across the table. "Marco Vidal, import-export, various business interests across Galicia and Portugal. I'm having a dinner party next week, 30 guests. I need servers who can be discreet, professional, and blend into expensive settings. The pay is 5,000 euros. Cash. 1 night of work." My heart stopped. 5,000 euros. For 1 night. That was 8 months of hotel wages. "What's the catch?" "No catch. Just high-profile guests who value privacy. You serve, you smile, you forget everything you hear. That's the job. And if I refuse? Then you refuse and continue your slow path to Madrid." He stood, left cash on the table, way more than the meal cost. "Think about it. Call me if you're interested. The dinner is next Saturday. I'll send a car for you if you say yes." He left. I sat there holding his card, trying to understand what had just happened. Why a man like that would need servers for a private dinner? Why he'd offer that much money for something that sounded simple? Why every instinct told me to throw away the card and forget Marco Vidal existed? I asked Senora Beatriz about him the next day. Her face went pale. Where did you hear that name? He ate here last night, in the private room, offered me work. Ana, no. Whatever he offered, say no. She gripped my arm. Marco Vidal is not a legitimate businessman. His family runs most of organized crime in Galicia. Smuggling, money laundering, protection. When he says import-export, he means drugs and weapons. When he says business interests, he means he owns half the politicians and police. Stay away from him. He offered me 5,000 euros for one night of serving at a dinner party. That's because the people at that dinner party are people you don't want to see. People whose faces you'll recognize from newspapers and television. People who'll make sure you never talk about what you witness. She released my arm. Please, Ana. You're a good girl. Smart. Don't get involved with the Vidal family. It never ends well. I should have listened. Should have thrown away the card and forgotten. Marco existed. Should have chosen slow safety over fast danger. Instead, I called him 3 days later. I'll do it, the dinner party, but just once. Just this one time. His voice was warm, satisfied. Perfect. A car will pick you up Saturday at 7 p.m. Wear black, professional. And Ana, thank you for being brave enough to say yes. The estate was 40 minutes from my town, hidden in the hills overlooking the coast. The kind of property you couldn't see from the road, protected by gates and guards and wealth that didn't need to advertise itself. The house was massive. Old stone and modern glass somehow merged into something beautiful and intimidating. Marco met me at the entrance, wearing a different expensive suit, looking every inch the powerful man Senora Beatriz had warned me about. Ana, you came. I wasn't certain you would. 5,000 euros is very persuasive. Money usually is. Come, I'll show you the setup. There are 4 other servers tonight, all professionals I've used before. You'll follow their lead. Serve champagne, pass appetizers, stay invisible. That's the entire job. The dinner was exactly what Senora Beatriz had predicted. 30 guests who I recognized from news reports. Politicians, business leaders, people with power who pretended to be legitimate. The conversation was in code. Business discussions that were clearly about illegal operations. Money transfers, territory disputes, all of it wrapped in polite language and expensive wine. I served. I smiled. I tried not to hear anything, but I heard everything. And Marco watched me. The entire night. Even while talking to guests, even while conducting his business, his eyes tracked me across the room. Not aggressive exactly, just aware. Like I was a problem he was actively solving in real time. At the end of the night, after the guests had left, after the other servers had been paid and dismissed, Marco asked me to stay. You did well, very professional. None of my guests complained. That's rare. Usually someone finds fault. He handed me an envelope. 5,000 as promised, plus an extra 1,000, bonus for excellence. I looked at the envelope. 6,000 euros, 3/4 of a year's work in one night. Thank you, but I meant what I said. This was one time. I won't make this a regular thing. I understand, and I respect that. But Ana, he moved closer, not threatening, but deliberate. I need to ask you something important. What you heard tonight, the conversations, the names. Can I trust you to forget them? I heard business discussions, nothing else. You heard me and my associates discussing things that could cause problems if repeated. I need to know you won't repeat them. I won't. I don't want trouble. I just want to save money and go to Madrid, that's all. I believe you, but belief isn't enough in my world. I need assurance. He pulled out papers, set them on the table. A non-disclosure agreement, legal, binding. You sign, you get another 5,000 euros right now. And you're protected. If anyone ever asks you about tonight, you can truthfully say you're legally prohibited from discussing it. 11,000 euros total. Half of what I needed for school. In one night. For signing a paper saying I wouldn't talk about things I'd never talk about anyway. I signed. Marco smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him. It made him look younger, almost approachable. Smart choice. The money will help with your dreams, and you've just made a very good impression on a very important person. You? Me. I don't trust easily, Anna, but I trusted my instinct about you, and you proved me right. That matters. He had his driver take me home. I lay awake that night counting money, trying to ignore the feeling that I'd just made a deal I didn't fully understand. Marco called me 2 weeks later. I'm having another dinner, same terms. Are you interested? I said one time. You did, but that was before you saw how easy it was, how much money you could make, how quickly you could fund your dream. His voice was reasonable, patient. One more dinner, 10,000 this time. You're worth more now that I know you're reliable. 10,000 euros, another third of my goal. I could be in Madrid by next fall if I kept this up. Just dinner service, nothing else? Just dinner service, I give you my word. I did 3 more dinners over the next 2 months. Made 30,000 euros, enough for school. Enough to quit my hotel job and move to Madrid. Enough to stop needing Marco Vidal. Except I'd been seen. By his family, by his associates, by people who now knew my face, knew I was trustworthy, knew I existed in Marco's world. The call came in December. Marco's voice was different, strained, urgent. Anna, I need to see you. Tonight. It's important. I'm done working dinners. I have enough money now. I'm applying to schools in January. This isn't about working. This is... He stopped himself. Please, come to my estate. I'll send a car. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't critical. Something in his voice made me say yes, against my better judgment, against every warning sign. I said yes. The estate looked the same, but Marco looked different, tired, stressed, human in ways I'd never seen. He was waiting in a library, pacing, drink in hand. Thank you for coming. I know you don't owe me anything, but I need help, and you're the only person I can ask who isn't already entangled in family politics. What kind of help? The complicated kind. The kind that might change your life. He set down his drink, faced me directly. My father died 3 months ago. Heart attack. Expected. He was 78. But his death created a power vacuum. I inherited leadership of the family business, all of it. Which means I inherited problems. I'm sorry for your loss, but I don't understand what this has to do with me. My father had alliances, treaties with other families, Portuguese, Basque, even some Italian connections. Those alliances were personal, based on trust he'd built over decades. Now he's gone, and everyone's questioning whether I'm strong enough to maintain them, whether I'm reliable, whether they should even continue honoring agreements made with a dead man. Marco, I still don't. To stabilize everything, to prove I'm committed to long-term leadership, to show I'm not some temporary head who'll be replaced. He took a breath. I need to get married, soon, to the right woman. Someone from one of the allied families preferably. But that's complicated. Those families have daughters who are either already married, too young, or completely unsuitable for reasons I won't explain. My stomach dropped. Why are you telling me this? Because there's another option. Marry someone outside the families, someone clean, someone who doesn't bring political baggage, someone I can trust. He looked at me directly. Someone like you. The room tilted. You're insane. I'm desperate. There's a difference. You want me to marry you, a crime lord I barely know, so you can stabilize your criminal empire. That's your proposal. When you say it like that, it sounds worse than it is. He almost smiled. Anna, listen. This isn't a real marriage. Not in the traditional sense. It's a business arrangement. You'd be compensated. Extremely well. 100,000 euros immediately. Another 100,000 after 1 year. Plus living expenses, protection, and when we eventually divorce, which we would, after 3 years or so, you'd get a settlement that would set you up for life. And in exchange, I'd be, what? Your trophy wife? Your proof of stability? My partner. My ally. Someone who stands beside me at events. Who makes me look like a man with personal investments beyond business. who makes other families think I'm planning long-term instead of just surviving day to day. He moved closer. You'd live here, in the estate, have your own rooms, your own space. We'd appear married publicly, but privately, you'd be free to live however you want, study if you want, act if you want. I'm not asking you to give up your dreams. Just delay them for a few years while helping me secure mine. This is insane. I can't. People don't do this. This isn't real. People in my world do this constantly. Strategic marriages, political alliances, relationships built on mutual benefit instead of love. It's how power works, Anna. And right now, I need you to help me keep power. In exchange, I'll give you more money than you'd make in 20 years of acting. You could buy your own theater company with what I'm offering. And if I say no, his expression shifted, colder. Then you say no? I'd be disappointed, but I'd respect your choice. Would I be safe if I said no? Of course. I'm not. He stopped. Anna, I'm not going to hurt you for refusing, but I need you to understand something. You've been seen. You've attended my dinners. You've signed NDAs. You know faces, names, details. You're already involved whether you want to be or not. Saying no to marriage doesn't erase that. It just means you're involved without protection, without benefit, without someone powerful ensuring your safety. That sounds like a threat. It's reality. I'm offering you a path where you're protected, compensated, valued. Refusing means you're just someone who knows too much with no one invested in keeping you safe. He picked up his drink again. I like you, Anna. I've liked you since that first night you served me steak and looked at me like I was a problem to solve. I don't want anything bad to happen to you. But I can't control everything. Can't protect everyone. If you're my wife, even in name only, you're family. Family gets protected. Non-family. He shrugged. Non-family takes their chances. I felt sick. So my choices are marry you or accept that I might have an accident someday because I know too much. Your choices are marry me and be wealthy and safe, or refuse and take your chances being ordinary and vulnerable. I'd phrase it more delicately, but yes, that's the reality. He set down his drink, took my hands. I'm asking, Anna, not forcing. If you say yes, I'll treat you with respect, give you space, honor our agreement. You'd have a good life, comfortable, secure. And when our arrangement ends, you'd have enough money to do whatever you want for the rest of your life. That's not the worst deal. It's a cage, a gilded cage. Every marriage is a cage. At least this one comes with a clear exit and excellent compensation. I wanted to run, to scream, to refuse. But he was right about one thing. I knew too much, had seen too much, was already involved in ways I couldn't undo. And the money, the amount he was offering, would not just fund my dreams, it would make me independent forever. I need time to think. You have 24 hours. Tomorrow night I need to attend a family meeting where they'll discuss alliances and marriages. I'd like to tell them I've already found someone, that the matter's settled, that they don't need to arrange anything on my behalf. That's not enough time. It's all the time I can give you. I'm sorry, but my world moves fast. Opportunities close quickly. I'm offering you one. Tomorrow night I'll need an answer. He walked me to the door. Think about it. Really think. Not with your heart or your fear. Think strategically. What serves your future best? Then decide. The car drove me home. I spent the entire night staring at the ceiling, thinking, panicking, trying to find a way out that didn't exist. By morning, I'd accepted the truth. I had two choices: marry Marco Vidal for 3 years and become wealthy, or refuse him and spend the rest of my life worried about whether knowing too much would get me killed. Both choices were cages. At least one cage came with money. I called him at noon. I'll do it. I'll marry you, but I need everything in writing. Contract, terms, exit conditions, everything legal and clear. Of course. My lawyers will draft everything today. We'll sign tonight, and Anna... His voice softened. Thank you. I know this isn't what you wanted, but I promise I'll make it as comfortable as possible. You won't regret choosing security. I already regretted it. but I signed the contracts anyway. The wedding was small, private, legal, but not sentimental. A judge Marco owned. 2 witnesses I didn't know. I wore a simple white dress bought by Marco's assistant. He wore another perfect suit. We said vows that meant nothing except on paper. He kissed me briefly, formally, like sealing a contract rather than a marriage. "Welcome to the family," he said after. "Welcome to being a Vidal." I moved into the estate the next day. My own wing, bedroom, sitting room, bathroom, small library. Beautiful, comfortable, isolated. Marco's rooms were on the opposite side of the house. We'd see each other for family events, public appearances, business dinners. But otherwise, we lived separate lives in the same enormous house. The first family dinner was a nightmare. Marco's mother, siblings, cousins, all watching me with suspicion and calculation. His mother, Señora Vidal, looked at me like I was an insult. "So, the hotel girl, the one my son married without consulting his family? Tell me, Ana, what exactly makes you worthy of the Vidal name?" Marco's hand found mine under the table. Squeezed, warning, support, both. "I don't know if I'm worthy, Señora. I just know your son asked, and I agreed. The rest..." I met her eyes. "The rest is between Marco and me." Bold, stupid, but bold. She turned to Marco. "I hope you know what you're doing, mijo. Marriage to an outsider is risky. She doesn't understand our world, our rules, our expectations. Then I'll teach her, just like father taught you." His voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "Ana is my wife. That makes her family. I expect everyone to treat her accordingly." The dinner continued in tense silence. Afterward, Marco walked me back to my wing. "I'm sorry. My mother is difficult. She'll warm up, eventually. Your mother hates me because I'm nobody. I don't bring alliances or money or power. Just myself. You bring something more valuable. Loyalty, trust, a chance for me to marry someone who isn't using me for my position." He stopped at my door. "I know this is hard. Know you're essentially trapped. But Ana, I'll try to make it bearable. I'll give you space, freedom, respect. That's all I can offer. But I'll offer it sincerely." "Why me? Really? There had to be other women, other options. Why choose me?" "Because you looked at me like I was human. That first night at the hotel. Most people look at me with fear or calculation. You just saw me, asked questions, challenged me slightly. It was refreshing." He almost smiled. "And because you're beautiful and smart and brave enough to survive my world, that matters more than you think." He left me alone with that, with the understanding that I was trapped in a marriage to a man who saw me as both salvation and possession, who claimed to respect me while stealing my freedom, who called this an arrangement while looking at me sometimes with something that felt dangerously like real feeling. The months blurred. I attended family events, played the perfect wife, smiled for photos at charity galas where Marco's money laundering looked like philanthropy, learned to navigate a world where everything was beautiful and nothing was honest. And slowly, impossibly, I started to understand Marco. The pressure he lived under. The impossible balancing act of running a criminal empire while appearing legitimate. The way he protected people he cared about with absolute ruthlessness. The loneliness of his position. We started having dinner together. Not required. Just, it happened naturally. He'd ask about my day, I'd ask about his work. We'd talk about books, films, the Atlantic storms that battered the coast in winter. We became something like friends, almost. 6 months into our marriage, after a particularly difficult family meeting, Marco came to my wing, knocked softly. "Ana, can we talk?" I let him in. He looked exhausted, vulnerable in ways I'd never seen. Today was hard. My brother, he's challenging my leadership, says I'm weak, that marrying you instead of a political alliance was proof. He's gathering support, trying to push me out. He sat on my couch, head in his hands. I might lose everything, the business, the family, all of it. What can I do? Nothing. This is my problem, my failure. He looked up at me. I just needed to be somewhere honest, where someone sees me as Marco instead of as the Don. where I can be tired without being weak. You're the only person I have who... He stopped. I should go. I'm sorry for bothering you. Stay, if you need to. I sat beside him. You're not bothering me. We talked until dawn, about his fears, his regrets, the weight of inheriting an empire he'd never wanted but couldn't escape, about my trapped existence, my postponed dreams, the strangeness of our situation. And somewhere in that conversation, something shifted. We weren't strangers pretending marriage anymore. We were two people stuck in an impossible situation, surviving together. He kissed me when the sun rose. Tentative. Asking. I kissed back because I was lonely, and he was human, and our shared captivity had created something that felt dangerously like connection. We started sleeping in the same bed after that. Not every night, but often. Finding comfort in each other. Building something real in the foundation of our fake marriage. It was confusing and complicated and probably stupid, but it felt less like possession and more like actual partnership. I'm falling for you, Marco said one night, months into whatever we'd become. I know that's not part of our agreement. No, you probably don't feel the same. But Anna, this stopped being fake for me. You're not just my arranged wife. You're everything. Marco, I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm just being honest, for once. You deserve honesty. He held me closer. When our 3 years are up, when the contract ends, I want to ask you to stay. Really stay. Not because of agreements or money or fear, but because maybe you want to. Maybe what we've built is worth keeping. That's 2 years away. A lot could change. I know, but I needed to say it. Needed you to know that somewhere in this arrangement, I actually fell in love with you. The real you. Not the concept, not the solution to my political problems. You. He kissed my forehead. No pressure, just truth. Think about it. For 2 years. Then decide. I did think about it. Constantly. Thought about the fact that Marco had trapped me with his offer, but had never actually hurt me. Thought about how our arrangement felt less like prison and more like safety. Thought about whether what I felt for him was real love or just Stockholm Syndrome wrapped in expensive surroundings. The answer came when Marco's brother made his move. A coup. Violent. Sudden. Men loyal to his brother stormed the estate with guns, intent on killing Marco and taking control. Marco got me to a safe room, protected me while bullets shattered windows and men fought in the halls. Held me while the violence raged, his body between me and the door, ready to die protecting me even though I was just his fake wife. When it was over, when Marco's loyal people had put down the rebellion, when his brother was dead and the threat was ended, Marco was hurt. Not badly, but bleeding. Human. Mortal. I held him while doctors treated him. Cried because I'd almost lost him. Realized somewhere in 2 years of playing house with a crime lord, I'd actually fallen in love with him. Real love. Complicated and messy and absolutely genuine. I want to stay, I told him after. When the contract ends, I want to stay. Not because I'm trapped, because I choose you. This life, us, I choose all of it. He kissed me then like I'd just given him the world. Like I was salvation instead of just a solution. Like what we'd built was worth every compromise and complication. Are you sure? Really sure? Because Anna, if you stay, it's dangerous. My world is violent. You could get hurt, killed, trapped in ways worse than our arrangement. Are you strong enough for that? I married a crime lord, survived a coup, built a life in a gilded cage and found it actually wasn't a cage. It was home. I think I'm strong enough. Then stay. Forever. Be my real wife. Not the contract version. The actual version. The one I love completely. I stayed, and 2 years later when our contract expired, we renewed our vows. Real ones this time. Chosen. Honest. Built on something that had started as coercion but had become genuine partnership. It wasn't the life I'd planned. I never went to drama school. Never acted professionally. But I played the most important role of my life. Marco Vidal's wife, his partner, his equal. The woman who'd been trapped into marriage and chose to stay anyway? Because sometimes the cage isn't a cage. Sometimes it's just a different kind of freedom. And sometimes the man who traps you is the same man who sets you free. Marco gave me that. Freedom within boundaries. Love within danger. A life that was complicated and difficult and absolutely real. And that was worth more than any dream I'd given up. Because it was mine. Chosen. Real. Even if it started with a contract and a threat. Even if it took 2 years to become genuine, it was still ours. And that made it perfect. Thank you so much for listening to this story. If you enjoyed Anna and Marco's journey from coerced contract to genuine love, please hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Did you think Anna was right to stay, or should she have left when the contract ended? I love hearing your thoughts on these complex relationships where survival becomes love and cages become homes. If you're new here, consider subscribing because I post stories like this every day, exploring what happens when ordinary people are pulled into dangerous worlds and have to decide what's worth fighting for. Drop a comment with what kind of story you'd like to hear next. Maybe another arranged marriage story, or something completely different. Your suggestions help shape what I create. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.